I hope that other moms would be able to find that support that I've been lucky enough to find, not only in, with my husband, but with my family, with my daughter, with Faith, with other parents, with my kids. Those are all wonderful protective factors for me. They help me keep going day by day. And I think, that other moms and other parents can find that too. It's not easy. I mean, this is the hardest job that I've ever done in my life, but it's also the most rewarding and one that I wouldn't give up for anything.
Around the country, mothers of children with FASD are joining together to support each other. Together, they are finding ways to help their children deal with the effects of prenatal alcohol exposure.
I don't think there's hardly been a day that has gone by that this group of parents is not in contact with each other.
Women help women in recovery. That's always been my motto. The real main reason why that is, we're all parents. We all have a lot of likenesses.
Find at least one person that can help you figure out what it is you need to do, and then can help you do it.
Just being able to have the daily phone calls or emails to each other and the camaraderie that we all have and understanding each other, that we know what each other's going through.
All of a sudden, I didn't just belong somewhere as an alcoholic. I belong somewhere as the parent of a disabled child, which has the challenges in and of itself. Now I belong somewhere as the birth mom of a child with fetal alcohol syndrome. And it made a profound difference in my life.
We surround each other, we email each other, we meet once a month, sometimes twice a month.
And I can talk to these ladies and they know exactly what I'm going through.
I have gotten so much help, it's just incredible. I mean, one of the biggest things that I'm an advocate for is that, when you go to treatment or whatever level you're at, there is so much help that you do not have to do it alone.
It's clear from 30 years of research that there's no known safe level of alcohol for every baby. A pregnant woman shares everything she eats and drinks with her baby. When a woman drinks alcohol, it passes into her bloodstream and spreads throughout her body. As soon as the alcohol is in a pregnant woman's system, it enters her placenta and passes to the baby through the umbilical cord. Alcohol goes directly into the baby's bloodstream, where it can damage the brain, the face, and organs that are developing at the time. Not all babies are affected by the same amount of alcohol. Some are much more vulnerable to the effects of alcohol than the others. And it's impossible for a woman to know how vulnerable her baby might be. Women drink during pregnancy for many different reasons. Christine's daughter, Clarissa, has fetal alcohol syndrome, but Christine is not an alcoholic. She became pregnant unexpectedly when her long-term birth control failed. Although not addicted to alcohol, Christine was a binge drinker, a drinking pattern that is particularly dangerous for the fetus.
So they immediately sent me for an ultrasound and found out that I was almost 5 months pregnant. And I didn't say anything at the time, but I had been, kind of just my regular 18, 19-year-old behavior, partying all the time. Her dad was in the military, so we were in Germany and drinking and, just having a grand time. And so it was kind of at that point that it was kind of scary to know how much I had drank and to find out that I was pregnant. And I didn't really realize the ramifications of it until I took her to the clinic and discovered that's what it was.
Mary is a recovering alcoholic and a doctor. She knew the dangers of drinking during pregnancy, but couldn't stop while pregnant with her son, Michael.
Many scary and ugly things have happened to me in my life, but that pregnancy was the worst time of my whole life. It was agony to have drank that at 7 months. and have all this information and know what could happen. Because I think women who drink while they're pregnant either don't know, or in my case, I knew that there could be a problem. I had no idea people could stop, that there was hope, that there was recovery. And I didn't know who to tell or ask for. I didn't know anything about asking for help. It was a skill I had never learned.
Mary's husband supported her as she struggled with recovery.
You think it's something you can control, when in fact you really look at alcoholism in a whole different way, because this is something that's totally out of control. And you can see it right in this circumstance, because you never want to do anything to harm your children. And in fact, this is something that's going on that you really don't have control over. When you don't, you feel helpless at times, you know, but now that he's here and working with it, it's a whole different ballgame.
Many women just don't know that there is no safe time, no safe amount, and no safe type of alcohol to drink during pregnancy.
Because I was thinking to myself, well, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't drink all the time. I don't drink every day. You know, I drink in small amounts, or when I drink every other weekend, or I only drink when I have a barbecue. You know, so I really didn't think it was going to affect me.
Stopping drinking at any time during pregnancy is much more important than not stopping at all. So even though you find out you're pregnant and you've been drinking, it's better to stop now. Don't take that hopeless feeling of, oh, I've already been drinking, what more can go wrong? A lot more can go wrong if you continue drinking during the last 2 or 3 parts of your pregnancy. There's a lot more that can go on that hasn't gone on already. Stopping drinking can be very difficult, and women need to gather as much support from friends and family as they can get.
And if they don't have the support, if the significant other continues to drink, it makes the process of staying abstinent for the person who is in recovery or trying to get into recovery very difficult.
The dangers of drinking alcohol during pregnancy were not always known. Marcy was an executive with the Girl Scouts of America, and no one suspected she was an alcoholic. During Marcy's pregnancies with her 2 daughters, her doctors were concerned about her having a miscarriage and actually recommended that she have a drink to relax.
My doctor did in fact say, it'd be a good idea to have a cocktail in the evenings and, stay relaxed and all that kind of thing. Well, you tell that to an alcoholic, and for a cocktail for me, a couple of fairly large drinks.
Both of Marcy's daughters, Steph and Sydney, were born prematurely and undersized, but the effects of Marcy's drinking during pregnancy were not recognized until her younger daughter, Sydney, was in school.
Well, I started noticing, feeling like there was something different about me, all the way back into first grade, because when it came to certain subjects, I always felt like I wasn't able to grasp the concept like all the other kids were doing. And I would literally look around the room and, as we were listening to our teacher discuss a subject matter, I felt like I was screaming inside, like, I don't get it, I don't get it.
Sydney had been struggling sometimes in school, sometimes doing fine. There was no consistency to this. She had an average IQ, but her performance was way down here. She was called lazy, she was called this, she was called that. What is it, the not working up to your capability bit? And I talked with her 6th grade teacher, and he suggested that she be tested for learning disabilities.
These tests were expensive and money was tight. By this time, Marcy was in recovery and was taking classes to become an addictions counselor. She heard about a study at the University of Washington and thought that might be a way to have Sydney tested to better understand her disabilities.
When I spoke to the clinic manager, I said, it's important for you to know that she doesn't have FAS. She looks just fine, but I was drinking when I was pregnant, and she got a diagnosis of full fetal alcohol syndrome.
Marcy had trouble believing the diagnosis.
I had deep down in my bone marrow, I guess, that thought that how could a well-educated, well-brought-up, professional woman possibly have a child with fetal alcohol syndrome? Now, I had gone through that same issue with acknowledging my alcoholism, I went through it again with the fetal alcohol syndrome.
But for Sydney, the diagnosis was a relief because it helped explain many things in her life.
There's a reason why I'm struggling so much inside my mind and feeling like an outsider. There's a reason why. I'm not stupid.
When Sydney was diagnosed, they said, do not expect her to ever graduate high school. That was one of the things. She will never be able to work, enter the world of work. She will always live at home or in some sheltered place. And you need to be thinking about that and planning for that.
Marcy and Sydney decided not to give in to hopelessness and looked into supports for her at school.
But this marvelous school counselor really helped us out. And then he had her write a letter when she went from junior high to high school and would have to, go from class to class. The letter was copied and her high school counselor gave it to each of her teachers each term. And she explained in this letter what her learning style was and what she needed.
Sydney then followed up in person, talking with each of her teachers at the start of the school year.
I don't want you to think any differently of me, that I'm trying to get any special treatments, because I just want to be a part of the class, just like everybody else. I want to be treated the same, but there will be times where I may struggle more than the other kids will, and if I can talk to you privately at that point in time, is this okay?
With the cooperation of her teachers, Sydney made her way through school academically. But as Sydney grew into a teenager, many of the behavioral and judgment issues associated with FASD made life very difficult.
Because I was pretty insecure about myself in the dating scene, and so when I did find somebody who really cared for me and that I cared for that person, he turned out to be very controlling, pretty abusive emotionally.
And I could see all those, the poor judgment, the no impulse control. I could see it vividly in action. That I began to realize this is fetal alcohol syndrome, and I'm going to have to deal with it. And so we started on a roller coaster ride for about 3 to 4 years of just very difficult times.
Marcy also sought help for Sydney from a psychiatrist.
The psychiatrist said to me, as he was working with Sydney, she was 16, and he said, I'll help you learn what's FAS and what's teenager, and then how to parent that. And then he said, if she lives, she will take a growth spurt, a maturity spurt, when she's 27 or 28 years old. Most of these young people do. Well, 27 or 28 years old seemed like 1,000 years from now. And when he said, if she lives, I had to come to the grips with the fact that she is extra vulnerable. And sure, all teenagers are vulnerable, but lacking any decent judgment skills, no impulse control, she was a victim waiting to happen.
By seeking help, Marcy and Sydney worked their way through her teen years. Sydney is proving those early predictions for her life wrong. She graduated from high school and went on to work with animals as a veterinary assistant. With the support of her family, Sydney is now starting her own business. She is happily married and is looking forward to her future.
My dream is to be a mother with a healthy child, to be a good mom. That's my dream.
Having heard the stories of birth moms like Marcy, Penny has decided to find out more about her children by taking Liddell and Deja to be evaluated for FASD at the Kennedy Krieger Institute in Baltimore, Maryland. Dr. Paula Lockhart is a child and adolescent psychiatrist and the director of the Fetal Alcohol Research Center.
I'm their parent, but there's a lot that I don't understand about them, and hopefully today this can give me some kind of, direction and focus on, what I can do, to, help them.
First of all, I'm going to talk with your mom for quite a while, probably, it might be a couple of hours, okay, because she's going to give me a lot of information about herself and about you, the two of you. So I'll need to talk to her a while. I'll be talking to the two of you later individually by yourselves so that I can understand how you're doing and if there are any issues to sort out to make things better. You have any questions?
Dr. Lockhart talks with Penny to get a detailed history of the children and their family, and also talks about a wide range of issues that children may be facing. She then examines both Liddell and Deja and records physical measurements such as head size, height, and weight that play a role in making a diagnosis of fetal alcohol syndrome. She talks with Liddell and Deja individually and asks them a series of questions that help her better understand their psychological issues and to determine how much prenatal alcohol exposure has affected them. At the end of the day, Dr. Lockhart asks for copies of school testing results and talks with Penny about arranging for more tests. At this point, she cannot make a final determination about the extent to which Liddell or Deja are affected by prenatal alcohol exposure, but her preliminary findings are surprising to Penny. She starts with Liddell.
I don't see a whole lot of alcohol-related cognitive problems. His executive functioning, how much help he needs to be able to keep himself together, to organize himself, to show good judgment and those kinds of things. But he seems to be able to do a lot of those things very, very well. So, and he seems to be improving over time, and he's only 11. So I think that's why I tend to downplay, the effects. And he, I think he was really, he's done fairly well.
Dr. Lockhart finds it is Deja who is more affected by prenatal alcohol exposure.
It does appear that she has some dysmorphic features and she has some organizational problems. It sounds like she has some executive functioning problems. And so it may be that she might be actually a little bit more affected than Liddell.
Penny and Dr. Lockhart agree to arrange for more testing in order to make a final evaluation. But these results give Penny a clearer sense of what she needs to do next to help her children.
Once you open up, you never know what's in there. Basically, I could get everything I need here just by opening up and being honest and asking for the help. Now I can take the next step, find out what I need to do. It's not as hard as I thought it would be, so I'm ready for the next step.